Starting on the cage, I've got this just roughly in the car. You can see TeamZ sends this with 2 lines on the cage. Bottom line is for if you have 6x6 plates, and this line is for the 3/4 subframe connectors. So I'm going to cut this a little bit short, as always, and then I'll turn it back as needed. I'm going to do the same on both sides. Looking at the cut lines that TeamZ provides, they're angled, and they're angled in opposite directions on either side. So I'm going to cut with that angle. Okay, so on this side, the cut line wasn't exactly perfect, but it's pretty good. The other side, pretty much dead on, top and bottom. But something that makes me really nervous is this. Why is one side that I cut off so much more than the other? I guess we'll see how it looks in the car. Sometimes working on a car isn't fun at all, especially when the company that shipped your pallet bent your main hoop. So I'm going to have to heat up this bar and get it pulled out. Got the main hoop straightened out. But now the problem that I'm running into is it's touching the roof. So I won't be able to get my headliner in there. So I think what I'm going to do is grind this down maybe 1/8 of an inch. Essentially I'm just going to take out the white line before I cut to below the white line. Now I'm just going to grind it and remove the white line on both sides, and I think that'll get me exactly where I want to be. With this loosely fit in, there's a fair amount of gap on the front side, and then it dawned on me maybe the main hoop is backwards and I need to flip this around. So I'm going to try that and we'll see how we go. Have my main hoop tacked in place. The reason why it's so far off that plate is that's the only way I'll be able to get weld around the entire bottom of the bar. I suppose an alternative is to have that tight against the plate and then just weld the hoop right to the right and up and around to the plate, and that might be sufficient as well. Got my apillar bar rough cut just below the white line. Up here, when I have the bar back, it's actually hitting where the visor used to go. I might just massage this in with a hammer. Passenger side apillar bar tacked in. As you can see, it sits reasonably low on the hoop. It's more towards the bottom than the top, that's for sure. I'm hoping that's just fine. That's where it sits and gets completely tight to the hoop. Looking at the door bar, it's pretty much parallel with the door, which is what we want. And looking at the front, it's out from the kicker a little bit, and I think this is okay because that's really the only way I'm going to get any weld around the bottom bar. So I think I'm going to run with this for now. I'll tack in the driver's side, and I'm going to work on the back bars. I'm going to need to cut out the remaining chunk back there because the rear bar is going to slide pretty much right up against that back panel there. Got both apillar bars tacked in at the top, loose on the bottom. Now I'm going to work on the rear mini tub bars. So this bar here is going to sit something like this in between the frame rails. So that means I need to cut the rest of this tray out. With this rough cut, this bar goes pretty much right to the rear of the car. So I'm just going to cut this box out more, cut this back pretty much to the frame. This side doesn't really need to be cut back anymore. It's all right. Yeah, that's where this bar sits in. When I got my TeamZ order, it came with 2 of these plates, and I had no idea what they were for. But I'm pretty sure plates mount to the frame, and then the bar mounts to the plates. At least that's what I saw in the TeamZ cage install video, I think. They don't have great pictures, but this is what I'm going to go with. Got both apillar bars and the rear tub bars tacked in, and what I had to do is the front of the floor here already had a huge hole in it from when I put the subframe connectors in. I never filled it, so I just kind of pushed the hoop right off the edge of the front connector, and then on the other side where I had fixed the floor, I made a little square and it fell right through, and this will allow me to weld the top of this. Initially I was going to cut out these connectors, but this is welded all the way around and there was no way for me to cut that out. So just pushing this off the front, it's going to flex the bar a bit, but I think we'll be fine. So I now have my window bar tacked in. So what I did is I once again dropped the cage down so that I could get at the top side of this weld, because otherwise there's no way I was welding it while it was in place. Okay, with the cage back up more or less in place, none of this is tacked in yet, so I can move the main hoop around a little bit. I can move the apillar bars around a little bit. You can see I got the dash bar loosely in place. It does not fit for shit right now. These apillar bars are going to have to get spread out for that dash bar to go in. I'm not going to final fit the dash bar anyways, because I don't have a dash in, I don't have my steering column in, I don't know exactly where that's going to go. So I'll put it up, but I won't weld it fully in. Let's talk about these back bars for a second. From the plate to the outside of the bar, I'm 5 3/8 on both sides. And then from the inside of this bar to the inside of this bar, I'm 26 inches. I did a rough measurement of the dash bar, and it comes in at about 49 inches on the inside, where it's going to sit between these two apillar bars. So I got about 3 inches this has to move towards the outside. As I showed, the dash bar isn't really fitting in. As you can see, the apillar bar on this side is touching the roof. But when I go over to this side, there's a fair gap here, probably about 3/4 of an inch, an inch. So I'm thinking what happened is when I installed this window bar, I installed it too low. You can see I got this huge gap here. One of the TeamZ videos I watched, this looked about right. But now that I look at this, this bar comes in. So I think I want this apillar bar up higher, and that's going to push this back out. And that'll allow my apillar bars to sit much further out on these kickers. So as you can see right now on both sides, they are really tight, really inboard. And even when I was trying to spread this to get the dash bar in, it just did not work at all. So I think what I got to do, as much as I don't want to, is cut this windshield bar out, and we're going to reinstall it higher up on these apillar bars. The window bar retacked in. As you can see, it is a fair amount higher than it was previously. Same on both sides. And not sure how well you can see through all the ratchet straps, but it's much less of a gap up at the top. And that now pushes the apillar bars pretty much right onto the right to the edge. Both sides, dash bar just held into place. Okay, at this point I have the windshield bar just tacked in, and what I've done is I've just loosely placed the rest of the bars to get fit. When I had that windshield bar welded and solid before, it was very apparent that everything was out of whack and nothing was going to fit properly. I got the dash bar in, I got the seat belt bar in, I got the triangulation bar just tacked, or not even tacked in, just placed in here. One thing that I mentioned earlier is that these rear bars are supposed to be 26 inches apart. Well, this doesn't appear to be the case. It's 27.5 on my mark right now. And this crossbar right here measures like 27 7/8, something like that. So in one of the TeamZ videos they said 26-inch. Don't think that's correct anymore. Yeah, so I've got my door bar. You know, I got a magnet there, and then the ratchet strap's also helping it up. But you can see here that it's above the seatbelt bar, and then the subframe connector bar will sit under the seatbelt bar. So this subframe connector bar here is supposed to land right in the middle of your through-floor subframe connector, and then attached to the main hoop. You can see I got a fair amount of gap at the bottom, and you know, this is with the main hoop right against that plate. This weld is where I had initially pulled the hoop in to where I thought I could weld on the back side. So I think that's what I'm going to do again, is I think I'm going to put a ratchet strap around the main hoop and pull it back in to about this position again. And hopefully that'll close up this gap on the subframe hoop, or subframe bar I should say. Tried pulling the main hoop in. The seatbelt bar, which is supposed to sit, you know, about a ½ inch above the subframe connectors, just would not come down. It was way too tight, and you know, I think having the hoop right up against this plate and then welding around and then up the plate is going to be my best shot at getting this actually fit in the car. So I was trying to get this front A-pillar bar pulled back to the middle of the outrigger of the through-floor subframe connectors, but it was getting caught on the welds, so it wasn't actually pulling back. So what I did is I took this another zap strap and just did diagonal to under the seat there and pulled it off of the weld, and then I was able to pull it back into the middle of that bar. Same kind of thing was happening on this side. The A-pillar bar was sitting on the weld from the kicker, so diagonal tie strap, pull it off, and now the A-pillar bar is sitting directly on the kicker, no gap. It's going to be a nice weld, I hope. Okay, I got the front half of the car tacked in. I'm now working on the mini tub triangulation bars. You can't really see it too great, so let's see if I can get a little bit closer. But essentially this looks like one bar wrapping right around. The bottom of this triangulation bar is pretty much right at the bottom of the center bar. I have to come around to the front here. The front of this bar will be in line with the door bar, so it's going to look like one continuous bar wrapping the whole way around and then tying into the other side. Okay, so I just got my back bars tacked in from inside edge to inside edge. I'm dead on 27-inch, and then I am 4 15/16 from the outside to the plate on both sides, so should be squared up. I need to get this bar welded to that plate, so what I'm going to have to do is just cut this floor back a bit. Just measure twice, cut once for a reason. First cut line where I actually wanted it cut, and now I have access that I should be able to get most of the weld all the way around this bar. Okay, I'm just going to give you an overview of the cage install. For the most part, this was just like put it in, hold it into place, and then weld. So one of the main things to figure out is where all of these bars sit. So you got this kicker down to the frame connector. See, it kind of sits in the middle of the frame connector, and then in the middle of this bar. See, the seatbelt bar sits about a ½ inch above that, and then your door bar sits about a ½ inch above that. Door bar comes down and, you know, sits reasonably high on the A-pillar bar. It doesn't sit right down at the bottom. I think that's the way it's supposed to be. I just have the dash bar just roughly into place. It's not its final fit. Once I get the dash in and the steering column in, I'll kind of fit that better. After those bars, we got our triangulation bars for the mini tubs. You can see this is pressy better on this side. You can see the triangulation bar is right in the middle of the door bar, and then the center bar continues, so this is essentially just one bar wrapping all the way around. Let's talk about the main hoop here for a second. So the main hoop comes tight out to this plate, and I don't think it's possible to weld the backside, so I just welded the main hoop up the plate, and I think that's going to be just fine. With the main hoop touching this plate, there's no way to, I don't think there's any way to weld down in the back of this along the bottom. Alright, in the back, we've got our mini tub bars coming off the main hoop down onto this crossbar. We had to weld in the plates on either end. Yeah, for the most part, this kit is just hold in place and weld.